yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This one's wife. Is she experiencing a narcissistic collapse? Hello, I'm HG Tudor. Before I discuss this topic, a reminder to go and subscribe to my new sister channel, Narcissism and Psychopathy with HG Tudor. The link for doing so is in the video description. Thank you to those of you who have done so already. I explained that this one's wife is a narcissist before anybody else. I did it years ago. I identified the various traits based upon evidence which showed what she is. Thereafter, as a combination of the fact that she really is the gift that keeps on giving through her behaviour and, of course, considerable interest in her, there has been a mountain of evidence which continues to demonstrate that she is a narcissist and provides me with an opportunity to explain her behaviours and interactions so you understand why she behaves as she does. Just recently, we saw her at the Children's Hospital Los Angeles Gala. Hitherto, she had worn the overripe burst tomato lady dress, now more like a shriveled up chili pepper dress. She was marching up and down on the green carpet, preening herself, arching her back, lapping up the attention from the various filming and cameras, from the photographs that were being taken of her. She was grabbing her friend, Kelly, utilizing the grip of doom in a double-handed maneuver, moving her hand across her crotch. She was having her picture taken with Viviano, the CEO of the hospital foundation. She was ensuring that she was seen, and it has been repeatedly suggested that she actually wasn't invited as a special guest, that she hadn't paid to attend, that she hadn't booked a table, that she had just turned up. Disengaged non-intimate secondary source, aka former friend Lizzie Cundy, suggested that this one's wife was just there for the photographs. We've seen various propaganda pieces which have suggested that she was actually at the event and that she was sat with Jimmy Kimmel and his wife, that she was sat with Mr. Viviano, that she was there and invited as a special guest, although we haven't been provided with any photographic evidence of that, which ordinarily one receives in relation to this one's wife, because we all know not only does she love being photographed, she then needs you to see those photographs thereafter so that she can respond, or rather she gains a response by way of the fuel generated from people responding to the content of the photographs. There are those that maintain that she wasn't invited, that she just turned up. Her behaviour on the green carpet has also caused some people to speculate that she was agitated, that she was experiencing some form of narcissistic collapse. Is this the case? Well, what is a narcissistic collapse? This arises as a consequence of essentially one or two things. The narcissist needs fuel, in the way that your car needs fuel, and if it doesn't receive it, it stops moving. In the way that your open fire requires fuel by way of logs or coal, if it doesn't receive it, the fire goes out. And similarly, if the narcissist does not receive sufficient fuel, the narcissist goes into a fuel crisis, and the construct, i.e., that which the narcissism has created to show the outside world what it wants the outside world to see, collapses, and instead the true self, unable to cope with the world because of its arrested development as a child, emerges, unable to function, unable to cope, lacking the maturity. For a fuel crisis to take place, the narcissist has to be starved of fuel. That means that the narcissist isn't being provided with any form of reaction from anybody. Invariably, for a fuel crisis to take place, the narcissist would have to be removed from individuals and have no means of communicating with them. So, for instance, being placed in solitary confinement with no access to a telephone, to a computer, no means of communicating with anybody, no conversations with anybody, not anybody to be there to even react or look upon them, so that the fuel levels go down. This doesn't happen within a matter of a few hours. It takes a much longer period of time for the fuel crisis to come, but it will. And this results in the narcissistic collapse, as the narcissist starts to experience greater levels of paranoia. The narcissist feels the emptiness coming up to engulf them, the chasm that they're falling into, that the very walls of their existence are crashing down around them. And you can learn more about this in my video, The Fuel Crisis. But in order for that narcissistic collapse to occur, it is necessary for the fuel to be cut off. Is this what applicable for this one's wife? Clearly, it isn't, because what we witnessed when she was at the Children's Hospital CHLA Gala was that she was receiving lots of fuel. She was on the green carpet, receiving fuel from non-intimate tertiary sources, namely photographers, film crews, other guests. Their reaction to her, calling out her name, taking a photograph of her, holding a camera pointed in her direction, waving at her, even if they were jeering her, all of that is the provision of fuel. Although its potency is weak because it's coming from tertiary sources, it's proximate, meaning there are large amounts of it. So think of it like a weak broth, but there's lots of it to eat. Eventually it will sustain you. She also was receiving fuel, for instance, from the reactions of Kelly next to her as a non-intimate secondary source, from other people that she would meet that would respond to her. For instance, Mr. Viviano, assuming that they don't actually know one another beforehand, he's also a tertiary source. But as you've seen in the footage that I have dissected and analysed for you, he was talking to her, he was responding to her, and therefore he was providing her with fuel. She was there with her PR person, who was also responding to her. Ditto, fuel's being provided. She would likely have received fuel perhaps from a telephone call from Harry earlier that day, from speaking perhaps to Doria Ragland, from dealing with staff. Accordingly, there was no narcissistic collapse caused by a fuel crisis. She will have been well fueled indeed. Part of the manic behaviour that you witnessed would be precisely because she was being so well fueled. Think of it as she's receiving so much fuel from people's responses to her, she becomes overexcited. She can't regulate herself. She's fizzing with the power that she experiences because people are reacting to her. They're looking at her. They're calling her name. They're waving at her. They're directing cameras at her. It's giving her the very thing that she needs. And that feels immensely powerful to the narcissist. And with a narcissist such as her, she can't keep a lid on it. Hence, you get this frantic reaction that you witnessed. I mentioned that there are two potential routes to the narcissistic collapse. The other is where the narcissist might be receiving some fuel, but they are being repeatedly challenged, or they're not receiving fuel and they're being wounded. Dealing with the latter first, this is an instance whereby the narcissist might be near people, but they're ignoring them. They're walking away from the narcissist, they're turning their backs on the narcissist. Each time somebody does that, it wounds the narcissist, punching a hole in the construct, and the fuel levels plummet. Not only is the narcissist being starved of fuel, but the active ignoring of them, signalling that they are not important, that they don't matter, massively wounds the narcissist, hemorrhaging further fuel levels, causing them to plummet, and sending the narcissists quicker towards a narcissistic collapse. Accordingly, whilst the starving of fuel as a whole could potentially take the narcissist to a fuel crisis and narcissistic collapse over a course of a period of time. For instance, being placed in solitary confinement and having no interaction with anybody at all. Where a narcissist is actively being ignored, people walking away from them, people aren't giving them any fuel, the narcissistic collapse in those circumstances will come about faster. Again, that was not applicable to this one's wife when she was on the green carpet, as people were responding to her. It was described that she didn't receive the warmest of welcomes, and it might be the case that some people ignored her, but there's plenty of people that didn't, and thus she might have received some wounding, but she was still receiving fuel in the manner that I have described. What if it was the case that she was being repeatedly challenged? For instance, if everybody there was booing her. Well, she's still receiving fuel, but it's challenge fuel. So that causes a problem because her control is being threatened. And what happens there is the narcissist is being fueled, so that's not a problem. But the narcissist needs to deal with the threats to control, which of course can cause agitation, can cause anxiety. And ultimately, in such circumstances, the narcissist would retreat. The narcissism would make the narcissist move away. It might cause the narcissist at first to try and engage with the people that are criticizing them directly by trying to talk to them, by trying to get them on side. But if, for instance, it's a hostile crowd who aren't for being changed, then in such circumstances where that narcissist is being challenged by the criticism, and remember, highly provocative narcissists don't feel it as a criticism. They revel in it. They love the shithousery, so to speak. But a narcissist such as this one's wife, as a mid-range narcissist, criticism of her, jeering, booing, catcalling, all of that is a problem for her, and it would threaten her need for control. Now, if she was tied to a stake, what you would have there is a problem for her, because while she'd be receiving fuel because people are reacting to her, she would be getting the threats to control and there'd be nothing she'd be able to do about it because she can't move away from it. She would, in her own mind, be telling herself, these are haters, these are idiots, these are bigots, in order to try and jettison it. But because they'd keep going and going and going, assuming that the crowd would just keep on criticizing her and jeering her and booing her, over time, and it would be a slow descent, ultimately the threats to control would become too much and it would result in a narcissistic collapse because she's nowhere to go. However, for most narcissists, they're never put in this captive situation, and instead what happens is that where they're being jeered and booed, although they're getting fuel, so that's not a problem, the threats to control are problematic, but ultimately the narcissist is always able to nullify those threats to control through withdrawal. The narcissist will just walk off. The narcissist will get in their car. The bodyguards will remove them from the situation they find themselves in. Thus, narcissistic collapse is not something that would occur. For this one's wife, that was not a narcissistic collapse that you were witnessing. It's quite possible that she was under the influence of some kind of recreational pharmaceutical. One must always keep that in mind. But alongside that, or instead of that, what you were actually seeing was her dashing around because she was actually somewhat manic as a consequence of the receipt of fuel that she was receiving. And in actual fact, absent any evidence that she was utilizing a recreational pharmaceutical, you were actually witnessing somebody who, of course, is desperate for fuel and she's looking to hoover it all up, but she's getting it and it makes her feel powerful. She fizzes with it. So you get this manic, ridiculous response that you witnessed. In actual fact, the very opposite of a narcissistic collapse. Accordingly, for her to have a narcissistic collapse, it would be necessary for her either to be placed in an environment where over a period of time she received no fuel whatsoever, or where she would be massively wounded and starved of fuel, or if she was held in place whilst receiving challenge fuel over a sustained period of time. That would result in the narcissistic collapse. None of those scenarios were applicable to her appearance on the green carpet at the Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. Once again, understanding narcissism through my work helps you understand precisely what's experienced by her, and it's important for me to correct the misunderstandings that people have about her behaviour. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.